There aren't many multi-cluster installation methods on the Istio website. I actually think there's probably too many. What is the best approach? Vikas, Weston, why don't y'all take that away, because y'all have implemented things around our best approach.
Yeah, so best approach definitely would not be to expose the complete Kubernetes API server or complete internal service of a cluster to the remote clusters. So definitely this is not the best approach, which is being recommended in multiple ways at the upstream Istio, unfortunately. So in the best approach, it should be behind the gateways, and it should be very controlled way in which we are exposing services to be consumed by remote clusters, in short.
So yeah, just to expand on that a little bit, what is like the recommended deployment topology that we want? And that is, and I'm sorry, there's sirens outside. That is an independent Istio control plane in each cluster, isolated from each other. That way, and the importance there is aligning your failure domains, right? So your Kubernetes cluster represents a couple of different failure domains within your infrastructure. It represents a compute scheduling failure domain. It represents a configuration failure domain, because many different elements pull configuration from that Kube API server. And so we want to align Istio to those. And we don't want to cross couple them. Therefore, you want an Istio control plane that talks to exactly one cluster is what we would argue is the best thing. And then, but you do need something to manage the coordination of these islands, right? And that's where there are many different solutions, right? That's where things like CI/CD can be a reasonable solution, right? Using your CD system to keep and something like Git as source of truth to keep your clusters up to date with each other. We've gone and built software to do some of the synchronizing, right? And this actually gets into some of the other aspects of how we would recommend multi-cluster deployments. The other big element of exposing of having Istio talk to a remote Kube API server is that you're getting all the endpoint data there. You don't need that data, and that is the highest rate of change data in the entire system, right? Endpoint change is the highest rate of change stuff. Pilot, like inside the Istio code base, we literally have fast paths for handling endpoint change, because that dominates all the other change that happens in the system. It's not even close. And so you want to avoid this n squared endpoint propagation problem, right? Where I have, in Kubernetes clusters, I don't want them to all gossip anytime anyone schedules a pod, right? That's what we want to avoid.
And in reality, like there can be like hundreds of clusters, and this is not feasible at all to have all API servers watching each other and talking to each other, all configurations being exchanged. So
yeah, we wouldn't recommend you have hundreds of clusters, but we do have customers that do, right? That is that's an easy boundary for tenancy, for example, right? And you want your mesh to align with that. You want separate, but then you have to coordinate, right?
Each team have like strict control on what they want to expose and what they don't want to expose. So this is also a concern that teams may not want, because of the security concerns. They don't want to open all the services to remote clusters.
Exactly. And so what we recommend then is that you take a more internet-like approach. And we actually, talking about names of things, we picked the name Gateway for Istio load balancer deployments very specifically. And what we recommend is you set up something very much like BGP, right? So how does the internet work? I know things on my local network, and I know the gateway to get to the remote network, right? And that's how we recommend you run Istio, which is to say, for cross-cluster communication, send it through a gateway
similar to
the remote. Exactly, to the remote cluster, and let it do the load balancing there into the destination. And in that way, you can have seamless traffic that flows internally and externally. You can still get all the normal Istio goodness around client-side load balancing, locality-aware load balancing, all that stuff. But you can avoid some of the configuration propagation problems, which are part that just don't scale.
Yeah,